Hello, everyone. Hello. Okay, so hi, everybody. So as always, we're gonna take some time and allow a few people to get on. If you're here, say hello. Just give us a few minutes. For some people to jump home, and then we're gonna jump right in. Are y'all excited? I'm excited. I'm excited to share what God has given me about what a wife needs from her hubby. Are you guys ready? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and pray. And if anybody who's watching this far have any prayer requests, make them known before we jump in. So excited to share some things with y'all. Are y'all ready? Okay, let's do it. Father, I just want to thank you tonight, God, as I was praying tonight, God, before the session started, God, I just could feel the gratitude in my heart, God, for the mere fact that you have chosen me for a time such as this. And that you have chosen me to be a mouthpiece for a ministry that is so sacred. And when I say ministry, I don't mean married sisters. When I say ministry, I mean marriage. You have chosen me to hit a thing and be a voice for those who are in this thing called marriage, and for those who are fiancés and soon to be brides and grooms. And you've inquired of me, God, to empower them, to enlighten them, encourage them, and equip them, God, to ride this thing and to thrive in it, God. And so I'm just so thankful tonight, God, that you've trusted me to do this. And so for those who may be listening tonight, God, I pray that their marriage will be greatly impacted by every word that is spoken, by every ounce of advice that is given, Father. And I pray, God, that it would reach their marriage, that it would reach their family, their kids, their house, how they function, God. And I pray, God, that you just fill us with joy as we listen in and relate one another tonight, God. We want to thank you, and it's in your sweet mighty name we pray. Amen, amen, and amen. Amen. Okay, are y'all ready? All right, if you happen to join in, say hello, say hello. Okay, so 10 things a wife needs from her husband. Obviously, there are a ton of things I would say a wife needs from her husband. Not saying we need a whole lot, but a husband also needs a ton of things from his wife. But we tend to get called like the needy one, you know, the not so simple one. And I wouldn't say I beg to differ, but or maybe we don't need more. The things that we need might just be a little more complex, you know. But anyway, so I can agree that husbands, men, are a lot simpler than women. I can agree to that. But nonetheless, 10 things a wife needs from her husband. I have pulled a few things from my book that was gifted to me by some women in my life who were very influential. They were wives themselves, and I definitely trust these women, and I've enjoyed reading this book. I haven't read it through and through, but it's a really good book. It's called 52 Things Wives Need from Their Husbands. And there's also one that is vice versa. It's 52 Things a Husband Needs from His Wife. So, all right. Okay, so number one. And I want you guys to chime in, you know, if you have any comments or any questions, like, please let me know. Number one. It's not the first thing, but it's the first thing that comes to my mind. One of the things a wife needs from her husband is assurance. A wife needs assurance. And I'm going to tell you what assurance is. Almost sounds like insurance. We need that too in case something happens to y'all. I'm kidding. We need assurance. Assurance is an attempt to diminish uncertainty with a declaration. I'm going to say that again. It is an attempt to diminish uncertainty with a declaration. In other words, it makes way for greater confidence. And so I'm going to give you a few examples. Something as small as a compliment can be assurance for a woman. If they put on something nice and you say, you know what, that looks really good on you. That assures them that what they have on looks really good on them. Not to say that we don't have enough confidence in ourselves that we know what we put on looks good, or, but sometimes we want to know that our husbands think it looks good on us, right? We want to know what our husbands are thinking about us. And we want to know how our husbands feel. And so oftentimes a moment of assurance can go an awfully long way in marriage. And so I'm not just talking about a compliment. I'm talking about something as small as him saying, I want you to know that you can trust me with this. If they say, you can trust me with your feelings and with the things that you don't want to talk about, then that lets them know, that gives them even greater confidence that what they're about to come to you with, they don't have to be hesitant about. That they can just go all in and be open and vulnerable. So, husbands, I know that, a lot of you aren't a man for words, but a little assurance goes a long way. And so, keep that in mind, when it comes to your wives. Something as small as, I love being around you. Let's them know that sometimes they can maybe even be a Debbie Downer, or, maybe not always in the best mood, because we carry a lot and we tend to, operate off of emotions sometimes a little more than a male does, right? So something as small as saying, I love being around you, just affirms that for them. Now, there's also a thing called reassurance. And sometimes when you have to reassure your woman, it is because that there has been made room has been made for doubt in their minds. So oftentimes you will have to reassure them. Let's say, for example, if let's say you've done something and they didn't like what it was you done. You come to them and you tell them, hey, I know that this isn't right, but I just want to reassure you that I'm still for you and for you alone. Or, hey, I want to, reassure you that you're still beautiful in every way, and I was just joking about what I said about your hair, or, or whatever the case may be. It could be something a little more in depth or deeper, but I just want to reassure you. That is a sentence you should use a lot when it comes to your wife. I want to reassure you, especially if you know that there has been some dents in the marriage in some form or fashion, then attach a reassurance to that. The second thing is, we need our husbands to be a gentleman. And I'm pretty sure that all of you ladies could agree. Am I right? We need our spouses to be gentlemen. And it's not even something that we need our spouses to be. The world needs our spouse to be gentlemen. And a man's ambition is, or ought to be a gentleman, to operate as a gentleman would. And so, but the truth of the matter is, not all men were raised to act like a gentleman, right? So, for example, if you're driving separate, don't leave her behind. You make sure that she is good, that she is safe. You put her in front of you, just you make sure that she's good, babe, you go ahead of me. And we all have independent women out there, and we know we like to be independent. Some things we like to do on our own, and that's fine. That's not a toxic trait to have, but we still want you to lessen our independence at moments, right? So for example, there may be something that we know we might prefer to do because we like how we do it a little better. Ask us if we need your help anyway. Hey babe, would you want me to get that for you, or do you need my help with anything? We obviously clean the kitchen a lot better than they do. They tend to straighten up and get things prepped so we can go in behind them and clean. But or maybe you're in there doing it yourself, and that is something that you would prefer to do alone because you like the way you do it. Ask her anyway. And if your husbands aren't watching this tonight, then take notes, and by all means, do not be afraid to give it to them, okay? And say, okay, these are the 10 things we talked about tonight, and read them to them, and let it get in their ears. I promise it'll go a long way. So we need our spouses to be a gentleman. We need them to help our mom, help our relatives in a way they may need it. If we've given them something and they're carrying it out of the house, and it's heavy or anything, you take the stand, you take the lead, hey, mother-in-law, you want me to get that for you? Things that a gentleman would do. We get it that 99% of men, don't open up the door, for their women. We get that was like 18th century stuff, right? That's fine, but some things, are, I guess you would say general, the things we think they should know. But again, not every man was raised to be a gentleman. Number 3, I'm going to put these two together. We need our men, we need our spouse, our fiance, we need them to apologize first. Okay, I think that's just a no-brainer, right? Like we've come to the conclusion that we need you guys to apologize first. Just apologize first and get it over with, because we know that it wasn't our fault, right? I would say 9 times out of 10, but truth be told, we know it's never our fault. Okay, I'm just kidding. Don't leave from here and say, you know what, I don't think I can follow this ministry anymore because, she's really not. But, no, truly, that one was supposed to be somewhat of a joke. We don't need them to apologize first, but it does make things a heck of a lot easier, don't it? Because, but anyway, we don't, but we do. But one thing we do need our spouses to do is, when they say, I'm sorry, when you say I'm sorry, we want you to mean it, and you should mean it. And this is just a general thing. Anytime you say I'm sorry to someone, you want it to, it ought to be genuine. And if it's not going to be genuine, don't say I'm sorry. Let's say you're in an argument or, a heated disagreement with your spouse or whatever. And, well, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry that, or if it's a sarcastic sorry, wait until it's going to be genuine. If you're upset and you're trying to, say I'm sorry to appease your spouse, don't say it, because it's only going to bring fuel. It's only going to make the fire greater, right? And not only that, an apology should always be genuine. We're to bear one another, forgiving one another for our weaknesses, for our shortcomings. And when we come to make things right and say I'm sorry, it has to be genuine, because that is a moment where you want to mend that thing and you want things to turn around. And I think as wives, to throw this in there, it might not be a full blown out or full drawn out I'm sorry. They might not expound on what they done and how they know it affected the moment and how it hurt you. But it's not to say that you should not be receptive to that I'm sorry anyway. They may come to you and say, babe, I want you to know that I'm sorry. You know, a lot of times we may say, well, what are you apologizing for? And if it's a pattern where you feel like your husband has done that and they don't often know what they're apologizing for, I get it, you know. Set the standard in your marriage that you want your spouse to say, babe, I'm sorry for saying what I said earlier. I didn't mean it. You know, and that's still not a drawn out apology, but it still is suitable to soften the heart of the woman that you may have hurt, you know, or whatever you may have done to bother the day or the situation. You don't always have to be direct hurt. It could be something that you done and got frustrated, you know, and it's kind of like ruined the whole ride, or, you know, or it's kind of put a damper on what you guys were trying to do. You know what? I'm sorry for how I reacted earlier. I know it wasn't towards you, but you know, I don't want it to affect the rest of the day, you know. So, nonetheless, number 4, women want to feel validated. A wife needs her husband to validate how we feel about something, especially when the feelings are justifiable. And even when they're not, you know, it's a wife needs to be corrected when her feelings are irrational and she's being irate and, you know, she's not being sound and she's being a little like crazy, you know. You validate your wife by telling her, I understand, you know, I get that this is how you're feeling about this thing and I'm not dismissing your feelings, but in this, I want you to know that you are being a little irrational, and here's why. You know, you never want to immediately make them feel like their feelings are invalid, or make them feel like that's just stupid, you know. Just to be, you know, blunt about it, you know. A woman wants you to listen as she expresses how she feels and make them feel accepted. One thing that we need to understand, that there is a lot of power in validation, that oftentimes if you don't even agree with how your spouse feels or how your woman feels, making them feel validated in how they feel goes a long way. You know what? Without even really telling them you disagree, because oftentimes we know, you know, and or I can see how you might feel that way, but you know, this is how I feel about it. It's something that when a woman comes to you and, you know, she's being vulnerable, she wants to know that door can open and it not get shut in her face. That's pretty much the goal in validation. To have that effect on your woman, and you have the ability to do it. Number 5, and I guess you could say I added this in pretty late, but you know, and I kind of put this one in the middle because it can be a little it can be a bit of a sensitive topic, but the truth of the matter is this is a married ministry and we are virtual, and the very serious truth of the matter is this is a very current, it's a very frequent thing in a marriage, or it should be, but and it's something that a lot of couples have trouble with, and that is their intimate life. And so I just, you know, since I've been made the voice for this ministry, I want to make known that a woman, I want to bring some insight, some enlightenment to this situation, that when it comes to our intimate lives in marriage, a woman, and this is just biological, this is what it is, and it is not going to change. Okay, and some women are built a little different, but the general woman is built to feel. We are going to be, I'm not saying we wear a heart on our sleeves. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when we feel enthusiastic about something, like it shows, like, oh my God, I cannot believe it. You know, when a man feels enthusiastic about something, it's like, man, that's great. You know, like You know, man, that's awesome. You know, there are some men that show a little more enthusiasm, but the truth of the matter is, you know, a woman is just, you're gonna know how she feels. You're gonna be a lot of women, you're gonna be able to see it. And there may even be some women who suppress that, but I want you guys to understand that when it comes to the bedroom, that a woman is gonna be more prone to connect with you on that level when her emotions are intact. You know, she's gonna be more she's gonna be encouraged to respond to you intimately when her emotions are intact. And just to, you know, give you, this one's for free, that that when things are going good, and you are well connected to her, when you have made an attempt to connect to her and she feels that emotionally, it will almost be effortless to come to her in that way. She won't even have to necessarily open up. Okay. I had to catch myself there because some people, you know, have crazy minds. But anyway, when you come to her, she will be in like an open book. You know, you won't have to flip through the pages or anything like that. She will be receptive to you. Let me just put it like that. If we were in an in-house session, that it could have gone a little different. But a man has to know that he's going to be driven off of physicality and what his eyes see. A woman is going to be driven off of how you make her feel in that regard, and how you make her feel in those moments, and how you make her feel in the moments prior. I don't mean moments prior, but how she feels beforehand, you know. So, moving on to number 6. We need our spouse to, and if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. Jasmine, please stop laughing. But it's true, right? It's true. I mean, it's an inevitable truth, and it is a gift. It is a gift from God. And I think that it's very important. Before I move on, hey, Sister Joanne, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't have my comments over and I did not see it. I'm so sorry. I have my husband watching with us, okay? I have put out a mandate on my marriage tonight for my husband to watch. And he has put on here, I love when Dee puts on deodorant fresh out the shower. Oh my goodness. Okay. Anyway, moving on. As I was saying though, you know, when it comes to that 3-letter word, it is a gift. And, you know, we are not to refrain from our husbands in that regard, and our husbands are not to refrain from us unless we have done so for the purpose of fasting and a sacred time. And the word specifically says that, and I promise you can find it in there. And it says, lest you fall short to temptation. So a good reason not to refrain, and an even better reason to find out how to make it great so that there is no refraining, right? People say, Joanne, is your menopause kicking in? Start laughing. He said, take your man. I'm done. That is funny. But anyway, number 6, we need our spouse to want to do the things that we ask them, right? Like, it's not enough. Men, it's not enough for you to do it, okay? You have to want to do it, because when it comes to women, you have to understand, again, the way we operate is, you know, it's from a deep place. Like, if you can pull the things from within, then you have reached us. Is it just me? Like, maybe I'm speaking for myself. But we need you to be intentional. We need you to truly want from the depths of your heart to want to do this thing we're asking you to do. If we tell you, babe, look, I did some things with you this week, and I want you to do some things with me this week. I want you to go shopping with me. And okay, no, I don't want you to just do it. I want you to want to do it. Like, don't get there and then you got your head back like this, like the whole time, like begging us silently to come out the store, But the truth of the matter is, ladies, like, I'm here to drop it to you, and I processed this. It took me a few years, but I've processed the fact that there are just some things that our men are not going to want to do. Okay, they're not going to want to do it, but we have to reach a point where we truly respect the fact that our spouse has done it because we've asked them to. They are going to despise waiting for you to look through every black dress on the rack, because to him, they all about look the same. And they're like, oh my God, like, are we going to stay here an hour looking at black dresses? This can't be real. And it is going to bug us, and, but we have to process that if they don't like shopping, that's okay. That's nothing to despise them for. It's not for you to look and see that couple walking in the mall, holding hands, both laughing, like, hey, babe, let's go to the store. And begin comparing, like, that's foolish and it's trivial. And we have to respect the fact, we have to respect how our spouses operate. And so personally, D is a great shopper. Oh my God. That's not true. He has gotten better. Let me not say better, but he has come to the point where, if I want him to go, or sometimes if he knows it's something I want to do, as in go shopping, he'll do it. He just tries to find his own little area and space where he can go and look, so it doesn't feel like, he's miserable, right? And I appreciate that. I've grown to appreciate that. But I've also grown to appreciate who he is as a man. And he does not like shopping. Like D, my husband personally can find what he needs in minutes. And I wish I had that talent, but I don't, I'm like, how did you go to the grocery store that fast? I don't tell him that, but anyway. We can't even go and get the things we know we need fast. Number 7. I also put as an example, ladies, if you're still out there having kids, he's not gonna want to help you decorate for the baby shower just because it's y'all's baby. Okay, it's just not like that. They don't care to decorate. They'll help tote in the decorations. They might even cook out if that's what y'all trying to do, but that's about it. Like, they're not built to do some things, we just have to appreciate that, or appreciate the things that they are built for. He's not going to want to watch a romance movie when he hates them, like, that is one thing that causes friction in my marriage. Okay. And we're at the point where we need counseling for that. I'm just kidding. I'm so kidding. But no, anyway, my husband don't like romance movies. And so, he likes the horror, but we can't agree on the comedy. And I used to hate action movies, but I got where I really like action movies. And so God has enabled us to meet in the middle, right? But oftentimes I will tell him, I'll watch this movie with you. Now you can watch this romance movie with me, because, maybe it's just me, but going on the dates and watching romance movies, that kindles something in us, right? So, husbands, it's imperative that you do it every now and then, okay? So, just trying to help y'all out there. We're probably going to watch a romance movie tonight. He just don't know it yet. Number 7. No, I may watch something he wants to watch, since he tuned in tonight and he is doing his homework. Preach, sister. Guys, if you see my name, it is literally my husband, okay? Just ignore him. He's talking about somebody from, oh my God. Hey Luke, how are you? He is now watching. That is just great. That's hilarious. Okay. My husband wants nothing to do with decorating the nursery as far as picking up. And that's okay, Jasmine. You know what? Let it be something you do by yourself, and you just, you bask in it, and let him know, since he don't want to help you do it, don't come in there asking how much this was and that was and that was. Baby, you make that nursery look exactly how you want it to. And can I just throw it in there to make it make it functional and transitional, because that baby's not going to be a baby for long. You know, get carried away, but, you know, I wish I'd have made mine a little more transitional. Agreed. We don't have to do things with our spouse because we like the activity. We do them because we love our spouse, and we know they like whatever the activity is. Very much so. And I agree, Alicia, and that's so true. Hey, Luke, how are you? Because and I, you know what, I do a lot of things that my husband loves. A lot of things. I go hunting, I go fishing, and, you know, sitting here thinking about it, he hasn't done something I want to do in a long time. I take that back. I hate that. I take that back. You know, he took me on a date that was all like geared towards me a few days ago, so I take that back. But that is very true, Alicia, for sure. Number 7, guys. Number 7 is we need our spouse, and we're breaking away from a little bit of the silliness, I guess you could say. We need our spouse to be honest. And we can agree that honesty applies to every part of our lives, to every person in our lives. We should all, no matter what, whether it's marriage, whether you're talking to your child's teacher, if the baby didn't do her homework and you done it for him, you done it for him. Like, there's no need to lie about that, right? Like, just tell him, look, I done my child's homework. Or, you know what, my child didn't do her homework because of this. I'm not making excuses. You know, we don't want our spouse to make excuses. We just want them to be utterly, boldly honest. And I can accept the fact that oftentimes it is hard for our spouses to, it is hard for anybody to be honest about things when sometimes we respond irrationally to the lie. Not irrationally, but when we respond a little harshly to the lie. And what can we say? You know, nobody likes being lied to, whether it was a small lie or whether it was a big lie. No one likes to be lied to, and no one deserves to be lied to, no matter what. No matter how one responds, no matter how one has treated you, we are worthy of honesty. And I want everyone to know that tonight. And what happens when we're not honest is it goes from there was trust, and now there's a gap, and then there's a thing where trust has to be rebuilt. And now you have to rebuild that. You have to rebuild the bridge, and you have to bridge the gap between trust and distrust. And so oftentimes, just to help, you know, you men out, is more work has to be put forth, because now a bridge has to be rebuilt. And it's not easy. It's not impossible, but it's not easy. And so I learned to do these that we both like. We love getting pedicures, and Pete's happy when we watch Family Feud together with him. That makes his night. I love Family Feud. Is that how you said? Family Feud? Is it Family Feud? Maybe I'm wrong, but I love that show. I do. I love that show too, Joanne. Tell Pete I'm right there with him, and tell Pete D-Lo's getting pedicures too. But anyway, I'm gonna read a verse to you. 1 Peter 3:10. If you want to enjoy life, and I could not agree with this verse more when it comes to marriage. If you want to, ESPN. Oh my God. I'm dead. Yes, we all know that you love to watch ESPN. On and off season, might I add. No breaks. Like, none. Did the sound go out for you guys? Or is that just Miss Megan? Let me know if the sound has gone out for anybody else other than Megan, if you will. I'm going to read this verse, 1 Peter 3:10. If you want to enjoy life and see happy days, keep your tongue from spreading evil and your lips from telling lies. I mean, could that not apply to marriage any more than, if you want to enjoy life and see happy days, and it's not because, let me make this clear, that it's not because you want to appease your wife. You know what? Whatever makes her happy. No. Honesty is a no-brainer, and honesty is a legitimate responsibility that a husband and a wife have to each other and to the marriage. So let me say that again, and I guess you can thank the Holy Spirit, because I didn't have that in my notes, and I believe that you owe it to your wife to be honest. You owe it to the marriage to be honest, because not only does it disrupt your wife, but it truly disrupts the marriage. And so then you individually have that to deal with, and then you have the marriage collectively to deal with. And so oftentimes you're not gonna have the ultimate ability to rebuild the confidence in your wife, or vice versa. You know, you are gonna have to find that confidence from God himself. He is gonna have to enable you to open up that place of trust in your heart again and begin believing, because there's a belief that comes, a literal belief that comes from what comes out of someone's mouth. You know, if my friend tells me, you know, I would never say anything about you, you know, or when she said that about you, I didn't say anything back, you know, I didn't entertain that. There's a belief that comes from what she said. Even if that person has never lied, you have to believe in your heart they're telling the truth, you know, and you could say that's the benefit of the doubt. And all of that has to be, you know, rebuilt once, if, you know, that trust is ever broken. And it's important that you give your energy to rebuilding that, because it makes for a happy life, happy days in your marriage, and an enjoyable life, right? Do you plan on doing 10 things that men need? I know what you're saying is a lot of stuff that is healed both ways, but I was just wondering. Yes, I'm going to mention that at the end, Harley. So y'all stay tuned. We're almost done, and I have a very important announcement to make, okay, regarding that. So, and y'all probably have an idea already since I mentioned it. But number 8. This is coming from none other, my husband, because I like to get his input, and I like to make sure he knows what I need from him, okay? I like to make sure that after 9 years, you know a little something, okay? And I believe my husband knows a little something, thankfully. My husband said that he thinks, y'all, and when I text him this, he read it wrong because he's a little conceited. And he thought I was asking him one thing, baby, tell me one thing a husband needs from his wife. Now, what he said back was beautiful. But I said, baby, he come in there where I was, and I was like, you know, I really appreciate, you know, your response that you gave me, but I was asking about one thing a wife needs from her husband, he was like, oh, I read it wrong. But anyway, nonetheless, number 8, in the words of my husband, a wife needs her spouse to be a voice of reason. Y'all see he chose something safe, but I'm just kidding. A wife truly needs her husband to be a voice of reason. I asked him why, and a voice of reason, he said, was someone who can help rationalize your thoughts and make decisions that, you know, a wife is not afforded to make, you know, and you know, if you're not careful, you would take that offensively. But I think what he meant by that was understanding that the male and the head of the house, you know, he is the leader, and when you're thinking thoughts and you're planning and you're leaning towards something and you're making a decision, or if you're even indecisive about something, that is where the spouse comes in and confirms what can be done. It is where the spouse comes in and helps you reason with your thoughts and helps you rationalize them and helps you go from indecisive to decisive, and he helps smooth over your mind and just be that voice where the only thing in your head is your voice, right? And we were saying that a wife must first feel comfortable in coming to the spouse about anything, whether it's something as small as planning something or you're being vulnerable about something you feel like, help me to know whether I'm being irrational about this. And If it's about you and him, they definitely have to be receptive to you coming to them, because that's going to be hard, you know. This is how I feel about this, and I could be being irrational, but maybe you can tell me. And if a man is a man, and a man is honest, and a man is willing to be vulnerable, and when I say honest, I mean like have integrity, like not say, no, I don't think, you know, I'm wrong in this. If they truly know that they're wrong, or they truly know that, you know what, I do think we could do better in this area, they will come back to you and they will say, yes, I think that you're right, and you are being rational, and you're not wrong, and I think that this is how we can fix this, or, you know, I think that this is why you're feeling this way. And I would say that my husband is really good at being a voice of reason in my life. I remember a time where I was like, I remember a time where I was a stay-at-home mom. I'm still a stay-at-home mom. But I tried to work. That didn't work. I got pregnant again. But anyway, and I just remember being so frustrated because I would try to pursue something. I said, well, I could do this and I could do that. And I just remember, you know, my husband talking to me. I remember coming to him and, you know, him just telling me, I don't feel like anything you're trying to do, in everything that you're trying to do, I don't feel like you're being hindered. I feel like you're being redirected. And, you know, he was, and I felt that, and I know that was the Lord speaking to him. But in that moment, he was being a voice of reason. And, you know, he could have easily made me feel like, why would you try to do that? Or why would you try to pursue this? You know, but, you know, he didn't. He helped me to understand that where I was is where I was for a good reason, and it was reasonable. 1 Peter 3:7. I'm going to read you this verse, and we're moving on to number 9. Live with your wives in an understanding way, gently and with tact. Does anybody know what tact means? T-A-C-T. Can anybody tell me what tact means? Tact means having sensitivity and skill. You have to grow to a point where you truly know how to deal with your wife. Maybe you've only been with her a year or 2 years or 3 years, you know. I think the same applies. It don't matter if it's been 2 years or 9 years. Of course you grow in understanding her more, because after all, women evolve, we evolve, men evolve, and we all change, you know. But you have, the word says you are to live with your wives in an understanding way. And what that means is you are to understand her. You are to have skill on how to respond to her. Not even because of who she is individually, but just in general, you know. Let me just try to throw an example in there. You have to have wisdom on how to respond when your wife, let's say, does something that is bothersome to you. If you know you are to be gentle, you have to find a way to respond that would be a response in a gentle manner. And that doesn't just apply to the husband, it applies to the women too. But God specifically said to do this to your spouse, because God knows how to deal with the women of this world and with his daughters. And he has written this so that y'all might know too. Number 9. I'm going to read page 69 for this one. This is the book, and if y'all want it, it's called 52 Things Wives Need from Their Husbands. But I'm going to read a page from this book so that y'all can see what somebody else has said about this. A wife needs her husband to have eyes only for her. And I'm pretty sure that the guy who wrote this book is not the only one who understands this. This is a man who wrote this book. So this is a man who apparently knows 52 different things a woman needs. And he did a really good job. But he says, the Bible backs up the idea of a godly man looking at his wife with extreme desire. Because what he was saying was, what he is saying, that it is obvious, and this is what we need to process, guys, that most women understand that a revealing outfit brings a certain amount of attraction from males, but they have no idea how much power they really have. Every man reading this is well aware of that power, whether it's a half-second glimpse at a Victoria's Secret ad or 4 hours of drinking and drooling at a rundown strip club. The images entrap us. Those examples are extreme, but both examples are relative to a creepy little 4-letter word called lust. But he talks about how the Bible backs up the idea of a godly man looking at his wife basically in the form of lust, but call it what you want. Extreme desire is the words that he used here. He said, and this was kind of funny when I read it today, it says Ezekiel's wife is called the desire of his eyes. Solomon told his wife, that's Ezekiel 24:16 in case y'all want to read it. Solomon told his wife, how beautiful and how delightful you are, my love, with all of your charms. Your stature is like a palm tree, and your breasts are like its clusters. I said, I will climb the palm tree, and I will take hold of its fruit stalks. I thought that was pretty funny when I read it. But anyway, the idea of it is simply so that you understand that God gets it. He gets that a woman, a woman and a thing that a woman beholds can be a man's weakness. The idea that he is portraying is that God intends for the only woman for you to fall that weak to is your wife. And to look upon your wife with extreme desire and see her, the way you may naturally see a ton of other women. To have eyes only for her and to pray that God give you eyes only for your wife. And, being transparent, I've had to do the same thing, getting married at a young age, I've prayed that God would give me eyes only for my husband. Now, do we obviously know that people around us, are good looking or this or that but the goal is to, see as a horse sees, who has the, blinders on, and to have a narrow mind when it comes to that, and to see our wives and our wives only. And I wrote that, we change, and we get wrinkles after a certain time, we have kids, things start changing, we might not try as hard because of something we're going through, but that never ever, justifies you looking at her differently. And at the end of my passage there, it had written something similar to this, but this is what I put. A woman can be as beautiful as you want to see her. And I guess it relates to that quote, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. If you see a thing, you can choose to see it as beautiful as you want to. Some people have an appreciation for nature and think, man, that's beautiful. And then some people look at it and just see a sun, or just see a sunset or clouds. And the same applies to your wife, and especially for somebody who you once saw as man, because I highly doubt you married her and didn't like what you were looking at. Am I right? So, if that fades, the goal is for you to gain the perspective that you had in the beginning, and to determine that just because things on the outside may have changed, just because seasons may have changed, that inside of her, what was there before is there now. And you, greater than anybody else, is able to bring it out of her. Number 10, and this is the last one. We're going to close here and pray. But I didn't come up with this one until today, because I felt like, as I was studying last night, I felt like I'd come to my end, and I felt strongly that God was going to show me today what the 10th one was, and he did. And a wife needs her husband to do the things that she is expected, to help do the things that she is expected to do. And for me, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I'm expected to tend to the house, to, help kids with their homework and wash them and cook and clean. And, my husband works a very demanding job. And so I understand what my expectations are, and I know that they are different with every family. And we know what the general expectations are that are put on a woman, whether she works or whether she doesn't work. But, God showed me today that this is something that I need for my husband. And I'm thankful that, and I talked about this a lot, but it's something that's truly changed over the years, that it is something I get from him, because I watched him, as he, pulled our son away all day, which, if you know my son, there's no getting away from his dad. Okay, he's the clone. He is a literal junior. But you know, I watched him as he pulled him away so that I could study, because I like to stay in a quiet and secret place on a day like today. And just kept him, and went and got the groceries so the food, you know, could be cooked, and come home and, you know, help put the food on, and come home and, you know, played with the kids, and come home and changed the poopy diaper for the day, because, I mean, well, an accident, because I do get most of those, and washing them, and knowing in my mind how I like for today to go. I want everything to be done by a certain time. I want to be prayerfully prepared, and I want to be ready for you guys, and just making sure that went as planned. And so it's not always for us to make sure things are orchestrated, and to make sure things are taken care of in that regard. And, you know, we have to be purposeful husbands, that we make sure we help our wives carry the load that she carries, especially when we know we're able to. Because yes, you may work every day, and she may be the stay-at-home mom, and she doesn't win the bread or carry the load of work, and we know that is challenging. And but we also, you know, have to know that our job is full-time as well, and that it's just that in our hearts, we want to know that we're not expected to do it just because the world says we're expected to do it, but that we know that you're going to come in when you can come in, and you're going to help, and you're going to help carry the load. And so I'm thankful for that. And wives, you know, if you're there, hold on a little while longer. Keep telling them what you need, and quit feeling like I shouldn't have to explain this. Because sometimes you do. They have to know, and they have to be told, and they have to be enlightened. But whatever they're not carrying, carry it well. You know, carry it in silence. And I promise you, the Lord will open up their eyes to it, and He will let them know where to come in. So with all of that being said, the announcement I want to make is that next month, my husband has agreed to get on here, because who better than a male to get on here and talk about 10 things a husband needs from his wife. Am I right? So next month, my husband will be our guest speaker. Everybody give a round of applause to my husband for being willing and being kind enough to lead next month's session. It's the third Monday at 9 o'clock, no matter what. The third Monday at 9 o'clock. So, with that being said, if anybody has any comments from tonight, did y'all enjoy tonight's session? Do y'all like these, you know, practical things? You know, things have been like a little light lately, because, you know, God just has me at a practical standpoint right now. He wants me to help y'all, help your marriage, you know, and He knows what He wants to speak to, and so I just let Him have His way. So, so yeah, so my husband will be speaking next month. My husband is giving himself a round of applause, guys. I expect nothing less. But anyway, so I'm so glad, Jasmine. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it. I'm so glad. Y'all tell me before we go, which one was your favorite? Which one could you, which one could y'all agree with the most out of all 10? I need to know. I need to know that I'm not. Can you repeat what you just said? Boys and me. My husband is not gonna be out of town. Do not listen to him. Okay, he's not gonna be out of town. Harley, I answered your question that my husband's gonna be leading next month's session. And he's gonna be talking about 10 things a husband needs from his wife. So please make sure your husbands get on, airplay it on the TV, put it on the iPad, you know, whatever you need to do. Set the date. Next Monday at 9 o'clock. So, if with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and end our session. If there are no prayer requests to close it out, I'm going to go ahead and pray. And I'm going to go ahead and end it. Joanne said number 6 and number 7. Hold on, I got to see it for myself right quick. Number 6 and number 7. To want to do the things we ask them to. Now, you know, that is not... Number 7, to be honest. Amen. I can agree with that one too. Keep going, Ty. You're helping some of my favorite was husbands being a voice of reason and our responsibility to be honest. Thank you so much, Alicia. That means so much. It truly does. I needed to hear that, and I appreciate the reassurance. It goes a long way, truly. And I agree. I agree with those two. But anyway, bring your husbands on next month, and I will see all you guys next month. We're going to go ahead and pray. All right? God, I want to thank you for tonight. God, I want to thank you for all of those who have joined in, God, all of those who have committed to sit down tonight, God, and hear what you have to say to these women, because after all, a lot of it was practical, but you know, a lot of it, God, I know that you are serious about. I know that you won't and so tonight, God, I just pray, God, for honesty to live in every marriage that was attentive tonight, God. God, I pray, God, for you to enable every husband, God, that is attached to these women, God, to be a voice of reason for them, God, to enable them to be vulnerable without hesitation, God, to enable them to be easily vulnerable, God, that it would be an easy thing to do, Father. And I pray, God, that you'd help them to see the load that they carry, God, that they would enable that they would carry it with them, God, and there will be a perfect balance in the marriage, God, and that they will continue to grow to see who they are, God, and what it is they truly need from their husbands as individuals, because we are all different, God, and all of our needs are different, God, and I pray, God, that you would open us all up intimately, emotionally, God, mentally, God, to our spouses, God, as you would see fit, God, and I pray all these things and declare that they will be so, in Jesus' mighty name, amen. All right, I love you, ladies, and I will see y'all next month. Bye.